it's unique. There's truth, there's comedy, there's sadness, there's everything.
I think it's it's so different from anything ever that I've ever seen, especially in a musical.
A musical for people who don't like musicals, and a musical for people who absolutely adore musicals.
Everybody's got the right to some sunshine. Not the sun, but maybe one of its beams. Rich man, poor man, black or white. Pick your apple, take a bite. Everybody just hold tight to your dreams. Everybody's got the right to their dreams.
Yeah, but it's an individual thing. Does that make sense? I'm saying that a lot, but I'm just, when you're looking at me, I don't know if you're thinking, Jesus Christ, I could have been up watching Waterford beat Kilkenny, or what? If you have a half moment when they're getting into that formation, it's a half moment of, yeah. You know, it's like, oh yeah, got it. Yeah? Yeah.
Let's go into Ferry Bank and take it! Who's with me? Do you hear the beats? Who's got the big flag? Who's got the big flag?
Basically, Assassins focuses on the 9 people who have either attempted or succeeded to assassinate an American president at different periods through time. It is a really theatrical piece in that it doesn't go in chronological order, and it also features scenes and songs and sequences between people who, you know, never encountered or never met each other, but who maybe have some things in common. And the writers just kind of took carte blanche in terms of taking these 9 people throughout history and, you know, mixing them all up into a big pot and seeing how it kind of turned out.
Oh, very nice.
Indeed. Then perhaps you might like to buy a copy of my book. It isn't much, just some random musings on the mysteries of creation.
You've got a bunch of real downcast, miserable people who feel totally isolated from the rest of the world, who have done this crazy thing that, you know, people like us would be like, that's madness. You can't do that. You were wrong to do that. And yet all these people are kind of telling us why they've done it and why they feel that this was the only thing left for them.
People aren't just bad guys. There's no clear, you know, when you're telling a story like Assassin, I could see why people would take that from it. But you can't just expect a person who did a horrible thing to just be a horrible person. Sometimes they are, but a lot of times there's more to them than that. And sometimes it'll be light and funny, and that's just the way it is. What they do in this show, I don't think they glorify it in the fact that nobody's ever portrayed as pure and the hero of the day. They're all shown in their stories are told in a way where it shows their descent to a point and how they got there, not in a kind of I'm going to save the people kind of way. It's more of a my life has come to this.
You have assassins there who, you know, did their own things for their own reasons, but they certainly would have been aware, obviously, well, as in the later ones, would obviously have been aware of the earlier ones. And then when you have Booth himself being the big dog, kind of having been the most infamous really of them all, I don't want to say spearheading, but it feels like the word I want to use. Spearheading essentially a gang of individuals who from their various points in history, for their various reasons. Like Shogat has his own personal reasons with the system and stuff, and then Garter is just another ball game altogether. But it's very interesting to see them all come together with their various reasons, and despite the differences in their various reasons, but come together under one banner, essentially.
People like to think that if their back is against the wall and they're in a situation that they would behave completely rationally and their moral compass is on point, but it's not. No one is as perfect as we try to make ourselves out to be. I just think that this is a particular group of people that genuinely didn't see a way out, and instead of turning the gun to themselves, they turned it to someone else.
I think it's important to put yourself in those shoes, and that's one of the great things about this play. You get put into so many different shoes, and you get to empathise with people that you know. If you do history in school or something, you're often not. You often don't actually sit down and go, but what was it like for these people? So it's really interesting having this contrast with the characters from different eras, where you kind of go, if you met Leon Czolgosz, you know, he'd have so much to say to you that would kind of blow your mind, you know.
I remember going to the now long gone Virgin Megastore up in Dublin. They used to have a great, young people watching this and I'll probably laugh, but they used to have a great CD selection. And the first thing I can still actually clearly remember seeing, I suppose it probably shows how visual we all are, and to this day I still think it's one of the great images, is the front of that CD, which is basically like a magnification of the stars of the United States flags. And it's specifically, unless I'm wrong, I think it's 9 stars on the image, you know, and I didn't cop that even at the time, but it's a really kind of simple, kind of strong, clear image.
I'd never heard of the piece before. I'm really bad for knowing about stuff, but when it comes up, I do my research and I get into it, and I like to know what's going on. But when I heard what it was about, and when I heard the music, and then, you know, I actually got to watch it myself, I just totally fell in love with it.
Ray gets the credit for getting me interested in Assassins. He played. We were in Cork one day, and he played the last track, the Booth scene and Lee Harvey Oswald scene, into the finale. And there was just something so unbelievably ballsy about it. There was something so unapologetically raw and gritty about just this whole idea, because I'd never known what Assassins was. I never knew what the situation was. I never knew what the story was, or even what had inspired it. And I'd say about 30-40 seconds into this like 10-12 minute long track, I was just hooked. And as we said, there's not even any singing at that point. Most of that opening track is just a dialogue scene. So my first experience with Assassins was the scene between Booth and Lee Harvey Oswald.
You used to like that nickname back in Minsk. Marina said Lee sounded Chinese, so she called you Alec. Of course, I don't have to.
How do you know what Marina called?
Well, I know lots about you, Lee. Let's see.
I think the first time I would have heard this was probably when the last time it was done here in Waterford. Now, again, this show is rarely done. I remember, I think it was St Andrew's Lane, I may be wrong, in Dublin, very recently, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, they put the piece on, and they were claiming that it was the Irish premiere, and I'm going, it certainly wasn't the Irish premiere, because I know it was done in Garter Lane, and a lot of people I know would have been in that production.
I was recommended to audition by Paula Weldon, and I didn't really know much about Stephen Sondheim or anything like that. I hadn't done musicals for years, but I've been singing and doing a lot of acting, and I was listening to the pieces for the audition mainly, and just going like, "Oh, this is really juicy." And I remember Czolgosz's song. The song itself was really good, and I was okay. This is something I'd love to do, and there was a little scene beforehand, but then also I think when I also auditioned for Hinckley, and that gave me an insight into how weird and wonderful the piece is, because the song in Hinckley's part he's singing about how much Jodie means to him, which is just really weird. And on one hand it's just absolutely messed up, and then when From comes in and singing The Wind and Devil and God about Charlie Manson, I was going, what is this piece? This is mental,
I'll find a way to earn your love, wait and see. And you will turn your love to me.
I had heard of it probably from my friend Jamie Beamish, to be honest with you, who was kind of blasting the head off me a little bit about musicals in general, and Sondheim a little bit at the time, because he would have got involved in theatre maybe a year or so, or a little bit before me. And when someone describes to you something like Into the Woods or Sweeney Todd, you kind of go, yeah, sounds good, Jamie, and you're thinking, that just sounds absolutely nuts. But for whatever reason, I took the plunge with this. But what I find kind of interesting looking back now is I thought I knew the show way before I really did, because it kind of works just if you listen to the album as a song cycle, but you're missing obviously all the dialogue scenes. But yeah, it never occurred to me that I wasn't really getting the whole show, because it felt really kind of complete, and it felt to me like a collection of short stories, and then it was 16 years ago now, the first and up to now only time it's been staged in Waterford. Bowler Hat Theatre Company put it on, Liam Butler directed it, and I played the Balladeer. It was then, obviously you get your script when you're rehearsing the show, and you're watching other bits and pieces in rehearsals, and you go, obviously the music was still, and the musical sequences were still as brilliant as I had kind of thought, but I literally had really only known about half the show, so that was a bit of an eye-opener.
Oh, I love that song. What a melody, and what a setting. Tonight, I'll meet my love tonight. Where is she, Lenny?
It's this trippy, weird story, but then it's all true. To a degree, but all the stories are generally true. I remember when I was reading up on various things, when I originally went to audition, I auditioned for two parts, Sam Bick and Charles J. Gateau, and I read up on both of them, and just some of the stuff you find out that when you read in the script, it seemed like, oh, this is written for the script, but no, this actually happened. Stuff like Gateau dancing to the gallows and singing, yeah, he actually did that, and Bick recording stuff and sending off to Dick Nixon, yeah, he actually did that, and to go on to YouTube then, and maybe this a bit dark, I don't know, but to go on to YouTube and listen to the actual recordings and see the similarities and see kind of the points that he made that are still in the show. I think it's the mixture of fantasy with reality that really drew me to it.
Hang on.
Yeah,
okay. Is what you're going to say next. I know why you're here.
Hang on.
Yeah. And that.
Hang on.
But seriously, it's lovely. It's really lovely.